All right. So Tom, yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out. And so anyway, real quick, how did your show go? Let's start there. I saw you had a sellout and all that, but tell me about it.
It was great. It's so we had done an AMI show in August to kind of put our team together and work out some of the kinks and just get our legs under us a little bit. And then we came back October 23rd with our first pro card. It was fantastic. I mean, we had a couple AMI bout undercard, and that was great. Some great fights, and then when the pro portion of the show started, the whole atmosphere in the venue changed to just electric. I mean, people were so excited. The place was packed. Sacramento's a huge fight town, so we had tons of UFC fighters that live in the local. Aspen Ladd was in the audience. Uriah Faber, Andre Feely. I mean, you just look around the room and there's UFC guys everywhere. And that was exciting for the fans, and the fights were fantastic. I mean, you couldn't. Our matchmaker Chad Shepard, he's a retired pro and a trainer, he did a wonderful job. I mean, he just it was perfect. Showcasing a lot of the local guys. I mean, in Sacramento, you have Team Alpha Male, Uriah Faber's gym. You also have MMA Gold. Down the road, you have the whole Nick Diaz camp and the Scrap Pack with Victor Galdon. You've got El Nino Training Center and Gilbert Melendez, and there's AKA in San Jose, which is an hour and a half away. So the pool of talent in Northern California it's incredible. These guys are sending people up to the UFC, on a weekly basis. You'll see them on Tough, or you'll see them on the Contender Series. And so that's a level of talent that we're getting, pro debuts that are just, the fights are crazy. And it was fantastic. There hasn't been pro fights in Sacramento for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And so my history, I've been in the construction business for the last 30 years, with the exception of, I did quite a few rock concerts back in the late 90s. So I knew I had a pretty good idea of just some of the pieces, but I was looking around and I found, I'm a big fan of Roy's promotion and everything they've done in Orange County. And then I found that they had the Fight Promoter University. I'm like, this is exactly what I need. There's quite a bit of money on the line. You're going to put up, you're going to take the money out of your bank account and you're going to put the show together. And with his advice and just listening to what he had to say, I mean, I'm sure it saved me thousands and thousands of dollars in potential mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's easy for the budget to creep on a show, right? It's really easy to just, oh, well, we need this and we need this and we need this. And, with what I learned on the FPU was, you got to control that. That's your job as a promoter. You're the bank. You're the guy, you're responsible for a win or a loss at the box office. And so you got to be smart and to have 25 years of fight promoter experience giving you advice. It was fantastic. So I'm grateful, and I'm happy that I could talk to you today after a great show. We have another show coming up November 27th.
I saw that on your website. That's great. That's a quick turnaround.
We're the only MMA show in the entire country. That's it. You look on mixed martial arts, every market in the country, we're the only ones. Now, the fighters, they want to fight, right? So everybody's like, how could you do that to them on Thanksgiving? Well, ask the fighters. They're like, no, we'll fight, dude. We'll eat on Sunday. How's that sound? Let us fight.
Yeah.
And so it's great. We've got Mike Beltran's coming out as our ref. We've got some journeyman MMA fighters as our, we've got Aaron Phillips off of The Ultimate Fighter season 29, and that's going to be a great bout. We've got a couple guys from Huntington Beach coming up from King's MMA to fight. We've got guys from the Diaz camp, Nick and Nate Diaz, they're coming in. We've got, of course, we have guys from Team Alpha Male, Uriah Faber's camp. So it's going to be a barn burner, man.
Yeah, it's such a great location you have for all those camps that are nearby or within driving distance. And that's one of the things Roy always talks about is he'd rather be a big fish in a smaller pond. Not the Sacramento small, but why do shows in the same place that there's 10 other competing promotions when you found a niche where you're doing a show where nobody else is doing it in a fairly significantly sized metro area and having so many feeder farm systems around? It's ingenious. That is the exact same formula Roy had when he started doing them in Orange County, because everyone was doing them in LA downtown. And he's like, why don't I just go to Orange County? And because there's no other promoter doing them, and I have access to such a pool of talent. That is so great. And I bet you those guys like Uriah and the Diaz brothers, and I bet you they're so appreciative that they have a promotion now where they can put some of their newer guys or their younger guys through to build them, so to get to the UFC or Bellator or PLF one day. So
yeah, I mean these guys, they can do their pro debut in their hometown in front of their own fans. They're not having to fly or travel to wherever they were going prior to this. What's funny about what you just said is I used to live in Orange County, and we saw the opportunity in Northern California, and like Roy said in the Fight Promoter University, don't go into another market where there's 6 other promoters. We saw Sacramento. We looked at it. I'm originally from this area. I was born and raised here. So, I have a lot of family up here. It was a natural. It's like, yeah, let's go to the Sacramento, and nobody's around, got a ton of talent, and we put it together. So,
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. I guess let me start with just top line. How did you do? With your card, like what it sounds like, what was the capacity? 850? Did I read that email right?
Yeah,
so how did you do financially? What did your total expenses come out to be, and how'd you do?
Our gross gate was 58,000. We had a little bit of sponsor money on top of that, not a ton because we're a new promotion. So I'm trying to build relationships with people. And, if you're Joe Schmo going, hey buddy, you want to come and write me a check and come to this show you've never heard of before? So we're like, okay, so we got a few people involved, and we have a person now who's going to be just focused on bringing in sponsorships. And we've made some pretty good deals. A lot of the fighters have sponsors and they want placement in the venue. So you make it reasonable. But to get back to your question, no, we did good. I think we made about $6,000 when the smoke cleared. We're still under the COVID restrictions. There's a mask mandate still in Sacramento, so we're like, okay, we can't go into it. I didn't want to go into a larger venue. There was a lot of concern in enforcing the mask mandate, and we being a responsible promoter in that kind of a atmosphere. So yeah, I was stoked. I was like, yeah, man, that's a win. Our AMI show was a win. This show in November looks like so. I'm hoping for 3-0,
Yeah, it's great. And the ballroom looked beautiful that you chose. I'll put up pictures when I post this interview so that people can see, but the ballroom looked beautiful. And so you were able to pull on some of that local talent, the fighters that we were talking about. Were they a big help in selling your tickets? Like, tell me, did a lot of your tickets come from the general public, or how much came from ticket sales from fighters, et cetera?
About 25% of the sales came from the fighters, actually. So we put on our ticketing platform, we put a code for each fighter. It's their initials. So if you're going to see me fight, you put in, TA as your promo code. And then when the transaction goes through, we know that you bought tickets to see me, right? So, and then we on the day of the weigh-ins, we would present each one of the fighters with a summary of all the transactions, all the names. Here's all the tickets you sold. If you don't see somebody in there, you can say it now. Let me know. We'll go back through. Maybe they forgot to put the code in or whatever. We'll go back through the ticket manifest and we'll find their name. And if that was the case, yeah, we'll give you credit for it. But about 25%. So I'm pretty happy that the promotion itself was able to sell so many tickets, you know, our own through our own efforts through
It's
social
incredible.
media, and you know, I think people really wanted to get out of the house too and go see some fights.
Sure. What was your marketing strategy? It's I mean, I'm surprised to hear 75% came from your own marketing efforts. Because usually you hear, especially smaller cards, it's more like over 50% comes from fighters. So I'm wondering, what was your marketing strategy? Were you spending money on Facebook ads or Google ads, or so what was your strategy there?
With social media, we focus 90% of our efforts through marketing through Facebook and through Instagram. Our reach was, I think, 457,000 people that we were able to reach through social media and get our flyer basically in front of their face, you know, with a link to the tickets. And, you know, we were changing it up. We were talking about the fighters. We were talking about, you know, each bout had its own unique draw and its own unique, details. So we focused on that, you know. Hey, Trey Williams is going to fight Aaron Phillips, and this is why you need to see this bout. There's all the reasons why, you know, this guy's 4-1, this guy's 5-2, this, you know. And so we would put the advertising out there and then circle back. And as the bouts were confirmed, we were promoting each bout.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, it's hard to beat them, you know, radio and, you know,
It's too expensive.
they're expensive. And unfortunately, and there's no measurable, it's hard to measure if you had any success with that. Facebook, sure. Yeah, I got X number of clicks to my ticket platform
Yep.
from social media.
Now, is that all organic, or did you actually put some ad spend behind that?
No, we did ad spend for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, what do you think you spent throughout the whole campaign?
A couple grand.
A couple grand. Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I mean, we're now that we have data to see what was the ticket sale trend on the first show, what's the trend on the second show, and now as the third show selling, we see a spike of say 150 tickets right when the show was put on sale. People are grabbing the first row, and you know all the cage side tickets go pretty quickly, and then it comes back down for a couple of weeks, and then 2 weeks before the fight, it picks back up tremendously, and then of course week of the fight. So we're like, okay, now we see how our people are buying our tickets. Can we change the way that they're buying their tickets so we don't have a couple week lull? You know, so that's what we're working on. We're working on those 2 weeks of where we see that the tickets kind of not completely drop off, but they slow down considerably.
I feel like we're going to have to add to the course to show people how to run those Facebook ads that you did, because we do touch on it, but I might want to have to do a screen share walkthrough, because I mean, think about that return on investment, a couple grand, you know, 75% of 58K, couple grand made you probably over 30 grand. So just on online sales, which is an incredible ROI. And like you said, you can track it. Yeah, I mean, that's great. And you know what's crazy too is not only were you profitable in your first show, but in addition to that, you figured out a niche of how to do it. But then on top of that, you only had 850 seat capacity. You know, we always try to shoot for, I know we talk in the course, we try to shoot for like 1,200 is like the sweet spot. And so imagine if you were able to, it sounds like you would be able to make an additional 30K plus if you were able to find a venue that could get that to that 1,200 mark, which, I mean, that's just incredible. So are you thinking of changing venues or expanding on the capacity soon, or no?
Yeah, so, you know, the hotels are great. The ballroom's great. You're fighting an uphill battle, though, trying to get it. You know, all three of our shows actually are on Saturdays, okay? So now you're competing with, you know, Billy and Jenny's wedding. It's going to drop 50 grand in a hotel with the catering, and you know, so there is a lot of negotiation on dates. We moved from the Hilton, now we're at the Crowne Plaza for our November 27th date, just for that particular reason.
I've done a Crowne Plaza before, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, so the show's building its own fan base, and as we continue to build that, you know, we'll want to get into someplace bigger. Unfortunately, Sacramento, there isn't a 1,200 seat option.
Sure.
That venue that was kind of the go-to place closed during COVID permanently.
Mm.
So we're looking forward to a couple of there's a Hard Rock Casino that's building a 2,000 seater. There's another Sky River Casino is building a 2,500 seater. Thunder Valley Casino, which is right just outside of SAC, they're building a big venue. So we're hoping mid-year, like second half of next year, we'll be able to find a permanent home in one of the casino venues.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's great. And then also too, you haven't even scratched the surface with sponsorships yet. So I'm just thinking about what's coming next, and I think it's real exciting. What the sponsors that you did have for this show, what industries were they in? Was it the typical car dealers and restaurants in the area, or did you have some others?
We had a mortgage broker was one of our sponsors. That was great. We offer a deal with our fighters too. If they bring in a sponsor, we give them a percentage of that money. So one of them did. One of the guys fighting in the main event, he brought in a sponsor, and we wrote him a check for that. And he was thrilled. The sponsor was thrilled because they got great placement, and we did a live stream, so they were on the live stream, and we do shout outs from the cage and everything. So that was one. We had a sign company that was one of our other sponsors. We were able to trade out some of the banner printing and the other, you need a lot of stuff printed for a show. So,
yep. Got to make deals with each one of these vendors. So it's,
yeah, make the best deal you can, man. And you have a commodity, which is the show. And, you don't want to write a check when you don't have to. So
Yep. Yeah, the show and all you can really sell is the eyeballs. And when you start getting into, I know that was the first one of the MMA that you are clearly planning to do more regularly now. But once you start getting into the season ticket sales and sponsors that are signing on for multiple events, you can even include the sponsors as putting their logo on some of your promos online. That's like another like value add. So yeah. So like that 457,000 people that you say saw your Facebook ad or impressions, you can start putting sponsors on those and increase the value of the sponsorship relationship and how much they're giving you. Because, hey, we're spending $2,000 on our own tickets. If you want eyeballs on your brand while we're doing all that, hey, it's an extra grand, it's an extra $2,000, whatever, so that's all great. I especially being the first one, I'm blown away at kind of where you're set up already. So
yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem selling the presents on the show. It's Jimmy Sausage Company presents MMA, whatever, hey, great, good for you. I mean, we're doing our thing. If we can help you do your thing, and it's great.
Yeah. And I know you said the challenge is Sacramento, but there are some things building. Roy ran into that same challenge. That's why he's in the hangar now. He was running out of space in the ballrooms. So that's why they went a little unique, found that indoor outdoor venue there. So I know not everyone has, even some people, if they around the country if they're going to try to do a show, maybe even Sacramento is larger than where they're thinking of doing it. So yeah, it's all about getting creative and kind of, I love that you had this success at the first one and you weren't content. Now you're looking for the next thing and you're moving hotels, and then maybe it's see how that goes, and we'll see what the third show brings. But I like that you're adapting already. So
yeah, I mean, on your first show, a lot of people don't even want to return your calls. They don't want to. They're like, "Who's this guy?" The second show, you have, so as you move along, and the word gets out more, now people are approaching us, which is crazy. After the second show, people are saying, "Hey, do you need an investor? Do you need this? Do you need that?" And so, so as you build the track record, it's going to get a little bit easier. Or that's what I tell myself.
For sure. Yeah. Or more hectic, but more profitable. So,
right.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, what was the day of the event for you? I know you have some experience doing some music festivals or concerts, but was it kind of like a wedding day where it was like it happened, you were rushing around so much it went so quick? Or like, tell me about the day of, like, what were you focused on?
So we loaded in. So we had the weigh-ins on Friday afternoon, and that was great. Everybody made weight and all that stuff. we loaded in the cage, the sound, the lighting. Friday evening, we rent our cage, and the guy we rented from, they fantastic. I mean, they had the thing up, ready to go in about 3 hours. We own our own sound and our own lighting, so we brought in our own sound and lighting. So that's a little bit more work.
That's a huge cost savings, though.
Because now I'm the truck driver, and my nephews are helping me load in all the gear, and we're setting up lighting. You know, it was fun.
Yeah.
So then skip to the day of the show. The hotel did the seating perfectly, fantastic. We provided all the colored chair covers ourselves. I thought that would be a really nice touch. You know, somebody spending $90 for a first row seat, we give them a nice red chair cover, and they feel special. It's cool.
Oh, yeah. Attention to detail. Yep.
Yeah, rows 2 and 3, they were a yellowish gold color. So, and we had picked out the person who bought the first tickets to that show, and we made them a little gift bag with T-shirts and hats and stuff that we have. So they, you know, we're trying to build our own VIP core group of people. But to get back to the setup, yeah, it's crazy. We have the video guys coming in because we're streaming it. We have our techs coming in to run sound, our techs coming in to run lighting. We're getting everything set up, and it's you know, it's the calm before the storm. You know, that, you know, as you're watching your watch, hey man, in 6 hours this place is going to be packed full of people, and you got to get all this done, and it all needs to work properly.
Yep.
And the sound needs to sound good, and the lights need to look good. So
that's amazing. You did your own lighting. Now, were you Roy with? Did you have a walkie-talkie for you and your crew for the day of, or were you just kind of running around?
We have walkie-talkies. They weren't really using them. It was easier just to yell across the ballroom, hey.
Yeah.
You know, we had it was a cool setup. The ballroom's upstairs. The dressing rooms for the fighters is downstairs, and they had pretty big dressing rooms. We put some mats in there so they could roll. You know, they could warm up, and you know, buckets and towels and ice and water and all the stuff that fighters, you know, need.
Mm-hmm. You know, you mentioned, I feel like a lot of people who are getting started don't think about some of those details, like the coverings on the VIP seating, or like the little gift bag or whatever you want to call that, as, you know, shouting out certain sponsors in the ring. I mean, these are the little details that go such a long way to making your event just look professional, make people wanting to come back. Now, imagine if you go to, I mean, as fans, we've all been to local cards, right? And I've been to some cards that are very professionally done, like yours and Roy's. And then I've been to others where you walk in there and you're just like, is this just like a high school sponsored event? Like, what's going on? Because the chairs are just kind of, you know, even if they're in a nice tight row, like there's nothing special that delineates the you know, the VIP from the general admission, and there's no signage anywhere. There's no, just everything just looks kind of mashed together. And, you know, so I really think the important thing is, and I was thinking about this when you said, is just the attention to detail. It just goes such a long way, and that's probably true in life, I guess. So, yeah,
I mean, when we went into this, we didn't go into it with like, hey, we're going to do one show, we're going to try it out, and then if it doesn't work out, then we're going to move on and, you know, put rugby matches together. So it's like, so we invested. The chair coverings like $150 a piece, but it just set the room off. I mean, you walk in, you're like, wow, this is really, you know, it looked elegant with the chandeliers and, you know, the seating also, you know, perfectly in a line. And yeah, it was, we got a lot of compliments, like, wow, this is one of the best shows we've ever been to.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's just, and then thinking forward, just saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm in it for 5 or 6 shows. I'm willing to risk this amount of money. We're going to do it smart. We're going to, you know, look at all the expenses. And we just happened to stumble on a great sound system that was a fire sale. The guy was moving out of the country, and we grabbed it, and, you know, we saved a couple grand. Same thing with the lighting. It's like, well, what are we going to, you know? So it was just unique that we have connections in the concert industry. So we heard about some of the gear being unloaded, and we're like, hey, we got to grab it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so smart. And two is, you know, even as well as you did on this first show, you've made those upfront capital expenditures, such as, you know, some of the things, the lighting, the website build, all these things that now are built into your operation that aren't going to be an expense for the next show, or minimally. I bet you the next big one you make is probably you'll buy the cage by yourself eventually. Save yourself the 1,500, $2,000 it was to rent that, I'm sure. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
don't know. Our cage, so that's a funny story. We have a cage.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a cage, but it's a 28-foot cage, and it's too big for the ballroom. It really is. It just kills so many seats. And I was like, leave that thing in the warehouse, and when we get into the bigger venues, then we'll use it.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh, that's great.
it was another promoter that I heard went out of business. And he's like, hey, I got to get this thing. So we grabbed it. But you need a 2,000 seater to use that big cage.
Yeah, it's probably like a legit UFC one with the stairs on the outside and all that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's massive. We have a warehouse, and we set it up just to make sure, this thing is we can't put it in the ballroom at the DoubleTree. It's gonna
Yeah, yeah.
all
And
get
while you're waiting for I mean, just to get some money out of that thing, while you're waiting for the Hard Rock and some others to finish getting built or set up for bigger venues, you could do an outdoor venue with that thing, like probably by spring, right?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So like next steps, I know we talk about local cards. Typically, we're not signing fighters to large promotional contracts. We're typically not getting involved with TV revenue, but I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that there is significant money in some of those ventures, particularly if TV gets involved, like to putting on small local cards. Sometimes those licensing fees can be 50, 100, 150,000. And then also on top of that, if you sign some local fighters that are showing promise that eventually get signed to the UFC, you can actually share in some of their earnings down the road. So I'm wondering if you've thought about some of those things, and if you plan to incorporate it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the fighters, where we are with Team Alpha Male, let's just say, for instance, they have their own management team for the fighters, and they have a direct connection to UFC, and they put their fighters on the track, and we like working with them. They like working with us because we can do their pro debut, maybe get them 2 or 3 fights. But I mean, but I told him, I said, listen, these have to be good matches. I mean, we're going to match your guys. Like we're here to put on a show, and we're here to put on some great fights, which we do. And they're like, absolutely, we're not. So to answer your question, yeah, in regards to signing fighters, we haven't really thought that far down the road. Just because we see all the other managers just kind of swarming around.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that'll come. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll come in a couple of years, but
Yeah, it's early. I mean, what I've seen done and what I've done before is, so they have their manager contracts or their team alpha male or whatever contracts. But then what I'll do is I would sign them to like a promotional contract and say, hey, listen, if you want this guy or girl to stay active early on, and let's say they're good ticket sellers, so it's like a win-win relationship. You say, hey, listen, I know that if they're good enough, they're eventually going to go on to bigger and better things with Bellator and UFC. However, if you want me to take the financial risk of putting them on consistently, let me lock them down to a contract. And then when they go on to the UFC, whatever their signing bonus is with the UFC or whatever, if they eventually get signed, I'll take my cut and walk away. And then you guys go on to your flourishing career. But, it's just like one of those things. Like I try to say, hey, like if I'm going to be the platform that boosts you up to that level, then hey, let's work out an agreement where we're making a promise to each other. And it wouldn't be for their whole career. It's not like they'd have 2 promoters, but it's more or less like, hey, I'm helping to make the UFC be interested in you, you know. So, and it's not all the money in the world, but it's something. So,
yeah. Something's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. But hey, you've got a great relationship with them too, so you also don't want to step on that either. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, they have fighters that have been to the UFC and have gotten sent back down from the UFC. And they're great guys, and and they're like, hey, we got to get this guy a fight. If he can get another win, maybe he can go back up. So we say, yeah, we're gonna, and what usually happens is, what we're finding as we're learning more matchmaking is, you send a guy 6 fighters and he'll turn them all down. So
yeah,
that's what we're running into right now. It's like, man, we have you on the fight. Your guy dropped out. Now, we're sending this endless number of guys, and then they don't want to fight him. So, and Team Alpha Male and MMA, all these they're all the same. They're like, hey, it's best interest for our guy.
Sure.
We appreciate you're the local promoter, but we need to do our things.
Of course. Yeah. Boxing's even worse, to be honest with you, with the cherry picking, because unlike MMA, boxing, there's this thought that like one loss kills your career, at least early on before you're like on the big stage. Whereas MMA is a little different. You could be 10-2 and be really highly thought of. Whereas you're 10-2 as a boxer and they're like, oh, he or she's not going to make it. So it's a weird thought process, but yeah. And you said something that made me want to segue, and you said in the beginning too, did you had a matchmaker for this card?
Yeah. So Chad Shepard is our matchmaker. He's a retired pro fighter, trainer. I think he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, he knows the game. He's fought in the game. I watched some of his fights. He's a good fighter too, by the way. So yeah, we talk about budgets. We talk about the show. We talk about what our goal is. And then from there, I stay out of his lane. I'm like, Chad, do your thing. I'm going to stay out of it to the point where you come to me and you say, hey, I need to make a decision on this, or this, or, hey, we really want to make this fight. But this guy, negotiating on the money part of it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I do my best not to say, hey, you should do this or this or this, because he does a wonderful job. It shows at the fights what great bouts we had. So I'm learning, like, I have my job, he has his job. We work as a team, but stay out of the matchmaking lane, is because I don't know what he knows. I'm not a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not a retired pro fighter.
Yep. Yep. I mean, and it frees you up so much to focus on what people forget what a promoter is you're a marketing person, you're a promoter, you're an event operator, you're not a matchmaker. And I feel like that's the sexy side of the business, at least in the media, is like the matchmaking. But it sounds like you realized pretty quickly, I need someone else to do this, because if all you're worried about is the matches, making the matches, being a matchmaker as a promoter, everything else is going to suffer on your card, and you're not going to sell out. So, because all you're worried about is that side. So I know Roy recommends that heavily. Did you, right from the jump, did you just take that suggestion, or did you try and do it yourself and realize I need someone else to focus on this?
Well, I took that suggestion because I don't have the chops, and I don't have the experience, and I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at. And Chad's fantastic at it, and he's a licensed matchmaker with the state of California, so that's he can make and if you want to be a matchmaker, you're never going to, and a promoter, you're never going to sleep at night ever. Not ever. The stuff that he goes through, and the stuff that I've been going through with lining up venues and negotiating venue deals, and then he doesn't want to do what I do. I don't want to do what he does. It's too much. I think it's too much for one person. Personally, it's just, you lose fights drop out at the last minute. It's, he's trying to replace guys. And that was just his last card.
Yeah, I know, it's nuts. It's like babysitting kind of. It can be fun if you love matchmaking, but it just takes way too much time to get anything else done on the show. So
yeah, I'll give you a quick, we had a guy, so, he was on a medical suspension for an injury to his ankle. He said, yeah, I'll take the fight. My ankle's fine. I don't need to go get it cleared. Okay. He goes and gets it cleared and he takes another fight. And they're like, wow, man, we're sitting there waiting for this guy to get his. So, yeah, it's too much for one person, my advice.
I used to always listen to the sob stories when the fighters would pull stuff like that. And then I just started being cold about it and saying, all right, like if you jerk around, I'm just going to suspend you through the commission, and then that way, at least fighters know, you may be able to do that to me one time, but you're gonna be sitting on the shelf for a while if you try that nonsense. Yeah, it's frustrating. But I'm glad you had the foresight to just let someone else handle that stuff, because it's just such a headache sometimes. And if you don't mind me asking, how did you approach that, and what was your fee structure? Did you pay him on a percent basis, or did you say, hey, I need this whole card matched and I'll pay you a flat fee? How did you structure that with your matchmaker?
I pay him a flat fee for a pro fight, and I pay him a different fee for an amateur fight. Like we had our amateur card first, and then he gets a bonus too, based on how we do overall. Mm-hmm. If he puts a great card together, and like we did, the thing sells out. Yeah, there's going to be more money based on that sellout. For sure. It's you got to spread the love around. He worked so hard on that thing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So would you say without the bonuses, just like a couple grand flat fee overall for the card, and then from there you see how it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can set it up. Hey, we're gonna do 8 bouts. And I'll pay you whatever,
few hundred each.
Bucks, yeah, a few $100 each bout. And then once we hit our break point on the show, we'll give you some money as it scales up to a sellout.
Yep.
So he feels he's definitely part of the team. He has his own separate company away from my company. So we just write his company a check at the end of the show, and he's happy.
Yep. How'd that feel, writing all those purse checks the night of the show with the commission?
You learn stuff. I learned so much the night of the show. I learned that I need to have the win check right there when the doctor clears him. I didn't know that before. I didn't ask. So, but the commission let me know. They're like, hey, where's the win check for this kid? He's getting cleared by the doc. And I'm like, oh, I just happen to have my checkbook on me. And I'm like, oh, so I sat there and I'm watching. I go, okay, I get it. And then they are fantastic people. All of them. They were so good to us and so helpful. And Andy Foster was so nice to us and gave me some great advice. Very very frank, very, not candy coated, that's for sure. But then they just say, hey, this is what you do. You write all the win checks and have them on you. And then whoever wins, that's who gets the check, and the other check gets voided.
Yep. Yeah. That's like a lesson learned. Yeah.
I learned that in the middle of the show. So
yeah.
It's cool, man.
I know. I remember like my first couple shows, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off backstage, like running, and the commissioner was constantly looking for me after every fight to come sit down ringside to sign checks, kind of like what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I quickly realized, oh, that's the difference between a seasoned promoter and a new promoter. A seasoned promoter, his butt is planted ringside the whole card because he has to work with the commissioner after every fight with checks and everything else. And here I am trying to be an operator, and you just need people you can trust on the day of, so you're not having to do that. So, yeah, it was a lesson learned for me too when I did my first show.
Yeah, I mean, we planted Chad right at the cage, and then I had a spot where the walkout was, and where the doctors were checking the guys after the bouts, and I finally told the commissioner, I said, hey, I'm gonna be right here. If you need anything, be standing right here, and then so that worked out. But learn as you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you certainly don't have too many failures to learn from. You crushed it on your first show. So, but it's like those little details that you figure out.
Yeah, it was funny too. The other very important thing I learned was make a space for yourself. the fight of the blue corner, they have a very nice dressing room, and the red corner. But the CSAC, the commissioners, and yourself, you need your own space so we can conduct business. And I was sitting on the floor entryway writing checks,
Yeah.
And the commissioner walked out. One of the guys, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I didn't make a space for myself, man. I'm sitting on the floor writing all these checks."
Yeah. Yeah. You almost need like a little portable office,
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly correct. You need something that you can lock your stuff in, that you can keep all the bout contracts and whatever other stuff you need, you can keep in a nice, secure, locked place. And what I'm doing in the next card is I have a third room for CSAC and myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conference room. I said, that's perfect. There's desks. We can, sign all the paperwork and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tom, I had last question. Did you sell out before the doors opened for this card?
Oh, that's interesting you bring that up. So here's a tip. Our first show, we use Eventbrite. It's an online ticketing platform. It's great. It's user friendly. Anyways, I had the tickets on our first show. The doors were at 6. I had the tickets go off sale at 6. A big mistake, because if people are walking up to the venue and they're like, I'm going to buy my ticket at the door, they go onto Eventbrite. They're like, oh, tickets aren't on sale anymore. It must be sold out. I'm going to get back in my car and go home. Okay.
Could lose a few walk-ups that way. Yeah.
You could. Yeah. So what we did now, we said, no, leave the tickets on sale till after the show, and say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, the night of the show, leave them on sale. That way, when people are walking up, you can say, hey, just buy them on your phone. Takes a second to just, because most people have some kind of pay thing connected to their iPhone, right? Like Google Pay or whatever. So they just go on Eventbrite, pick the ticket, hit pay, done. They walk up, we scan them in, and that's it. So that was an important thing. That was an important lesson that we learned between the two shows. It's just, sell tickets as late as you can the night of the show.
Yeah. And who did you have coordinating will call and ticket sales? Because I always say, that's one of the few hires for the night of the show that you want your wife or your sister or your brother or your close friend being in charge of that, because of all the money and transaction stuff going on. So,
right. So my wife is in charge of will call, and so we separate, cage side tickets and guest lists, and then general admission are 2 separate lines. My nephew works at general admission. He's scanning people in, and, I have his buddy is putting the wristbands on him. And then my wife is running the VIP, because we get a lot of guys, we get guys from the UFC that walk up like, hey, I'm here to see the show. And if you don't know who they are, you're like, okay, we'll buy a ticket.
You're not going to charge Uriah a favor to go to a.
Yeah, well, so she works that part, and it's great. Obviously, you're right. You have to have a relative, somebody you really trust to handle that, because if you don't, like Roy said, monkey business can go on, and it can cost you thousands of dollars.
He has a horror story where he had I forget if it was an intern or a kid that he trusted. And he said, okay, and I think he got burned. They were taking money, and on the not a lot. They were trying to be sneaky about it, few hundred or like $1,000 here or there each show. And he eventually figured it out, and so that was how he got burned. He learned the hard way. So that's great that you. The wife is the perfect one to use.
Yeah. So. There's a million ways to cheat a box office. There's a million ways. So the guy walks up, the kid says, $50, give him the 50. The kid puts a guest list wristband on him, and he goes.
Yep.
He's a guest.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
$50 goes in his pocket. There's a million ways to do it. So just have somebody you trust.
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to talk us through this. I feel like we just scratched the surface. So if you don't mind, after your November 27, give us an update. Maybe we jump on a call again around the holidays. I'd love to hear how that goes. What's the capacity for the Crowne Plaza event?
It's 800.
Same. Okay.
So,
yep.
So our margins are pretty thin on this one, but we're excited. It's another show. We're building momentum. We're coming right off the other big show. So I'm excited. We have some national media looking at us because we're the only, I said them a thing. I said, hey, we're the only pro MMA show in the country on Saturday, November 27th. Why don't you in there? And they're like, yeah, we'll check it out. It's on Fight TV and we'll watch.
Oh, that was my next question. What was your streaming platform? Okay. It's Fight TV.
Yeah, we use Fight. Keith's pretty good over there. It is what it is. They're in business to make money as much as we are. So they're gonna do a great job on their platform. And they sell it all over the world. So it's good, I mean, a few hundred buys, 300 buys, that's not bad, Yeah. That's a couple grand in your pocket, that's on top of whatever else you did. So
yeah.
And the fighters like it. The fighters it's like, hey, my mom in Tennessee wants to watch the fight. Okay, well, it's on Fight TV, man. It's $14.99.
Mm-hmm.
Mom can buy it and watch you fight.
And too, you can always, especially if you're doing like you or anyone is doing like a pro-am, you can even stream the amateur on for free on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And then you can say, hey, jump over to Fight TV for the paid pro card, or whatever. If it is an all pro card, maybe the first bout is free. And then you try to drive the eyeballs to the paid. But yeah, you're right. It's added revenue, kind of like sponsorships. It's like you try to be profitable on ticket sales, obviously, but then any sponsors or streaming buys you get is just all like extra cherry on top. So, yeah.
We stream our weigh-ins for free on Facebook Live.
Nice.
And I was surprised. Like we had 100 and something people watching the weigh-ins. So that's good, and it builds excitement. And you also say, hey, you can watch it on Fight TV tonight or tomorrow night or whatever the case may be.
Did you have any orchestrated publicity stunts at the weigh-ins or anything like that?
No, I was definitely not wanting any publicity stunts yet. Man. I just want to keep everything cool for right now. We have some guys who want to fight, man.
It's nuts. I know.
I was like, wow, yeah, these guys are definitely a couple alpha males ready to go at it. So we'll just keep it cool.
Just nobody get hurt.
Yeah. I don't want to cut or anything, So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tom, thanks again, and let's stay in touch. And I really appreciate you taking the time. And it's great when we can hear about like a success story like this. First show, just knock it out of the park, made $6-7 grand, whatever it was. And I can only imagine when you get into a 1,000, 1,200 seat arena or whatever that is. I'm really looking forward to how the profits really shake out, because I think there's a lot of meat on on the bones that you can.
Yeah, I mean, your budget. What's your budget going to go up for the other 400 people? I mean, you have more security. You have, but the venue's going to be like, hey, we're going to make more money on the beer and the wine and everything else. So yeah, I'm with you. That's where the sweet spot is, I think.
Yeah.
Once you get into those numbers, it's like, yeah, you went from 6,000 to 20, 30,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, a $60 GA ticket. Yeah, another 400 people.
I've seen some local cards that are done when they're done right. I've seen some local MMA cards in smaller cities in Sacramento. I'm talking like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I mean, super small city. Sell over 2,000 tickets to a small, untelevised MMA card, completely local pro-am. Imagine what they pulled out of that place. So, I mean, I think they probably made like 50 grand that night. So it's pretty wild stuff. So I'm excited for what the future holds.
I'm on the promoter side, man. I want to see us win. I want to see. It's not an easy job. I'm learning that. It's not, not everybody's on your side. Not every, a lot of people are not MMA fans or combat sport fans. It's not. That's Ron, and the guy's like, well, now that doesn't fit with our family atmosphere. Have you ever been to a show? Because there's a lot of families, man. There's a lot of really nice people that come out to watch, MMA or boxing.
And not only that, I always look at it as you're giving the fighters on those cards are actual gladiators, and they're putting their lives on the line for success and riches and fame and all that. And I mean, what's more primal than that? I feel like it's a success story. Every time someone steps in the cage, it's like someone is willing to risk so much for glory. How do you not celebrate that? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a sacred spot, man, in the cage. Definitely.
It really is. So yeah. Anyway, thank you, Tom. And let's talk again soon. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
All right. Yep. See ya.